how did you get started in cybersecurity? Origin story.
So it was all kind of by accident. My dad is a software engineer. He's been on for the past like 27, 28 years now. And he kind of wanted to push me and brother to go inside of the IT world when we were like in middle school, but I wasn't mentally ready for it. So he made me do a Code Academy boot camp during one summer. I'm like, Dad, this is the lamest thing ever. You're telling me someone basically pays you money to type in a keyboard all day? That sounds really stupid. I don't want to do that.
Instructor extraordinaire. So share with us some of his expertise, how we can leverage cybersecurity tools like SIEM, SOAR Technology to satisfy the CMMC. How are you, Kenneth?
Pretty good on my end. And you?
Pretty good. Ready for the holiday, so Independence Day. So let's talk about that. Swimming. About yourself. Plans for the holiday?
I have sparring practice probably Thursday and Friday, but other than that, probably just gonna watch and relax and watch anime.
Okay. I was about to ask, so when you say sparring, it's about boxing or MMA?
Boxing, kickboxing.
Okay. How long have you been into that?
For almost about 3 years now.
Okay. Good workout, huh?
It is. I've lost 21 pounds from the past 2 weeks since I started sparring more seriously.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Really intense workout.
Yeah.
Certainly. Ties into one of my first questions I like to ask my guests is what they like to do out security.
Yeah, so I guess outside of cybersecurity, I do a lot of boxing, kickboxing. So I normally go probably, I take, like maybe 5 classes per week or 45 classes per week. And I'm so in total probably 8 hours a week I spend doing that. It's a lot of fun. My favorite part is like the mental aspect of it, because you're basically trained to seriously injure somebody, right? But you have to have the self-control to know when to use your skills and know when to not use it, right? Which is a cool part to me, right? It's like that mental aspect. Learn how to control your emotions, control your body. Most of the fighters are really like mentally calm and relaxed, which I guess I thought that'd be like the Hulk or something, just like want to punch you in the face. But
it'd be really aggressive.
Yeah, it's like it's completely other opposite of it, which is really cool in my opinion.
I have no idea that they are a lethal weapon just by looking at them or seeing the energy. Awesome. So tell us about Ellington Cyber Academy.
So, Ellington Cyber Academy, that is an e-learning coaching platform. We've been in business for about 2 years now, 2 years since June. And we focus on SIEM, SOAR, XDR platforms. So think of Splunk, QRadar, XSOAR, Microsoft Sentinel, things of that nature. We do consulting and we do coaching as well for small businesses and individuals. So if you're, let's say you're like a junior analyst or IT support person, you want to get promoted towards like a senior engineer or like a manager if you're a senior person already, we help design programs for you. We tailor it towards your needs, specific wants, and we give you hands-on training inside of the platform to get you hired or promoted.
That's very cool. Any success stories that come in mind where you help someone get into cybersecurity?
Yes, we have a couple. So one of my first students is named Brian Budget. He's funny, very funny, by the way. He made a lot of money, but he worked 2 jobs because him and his wife owned their own photography company, basically. He's working 80 hours. He's making 6 figures, but he had to work 80 hours, right? So he's kind of tired of it.
Life balance.
Yeah. After the beta, which was like 5 weeks, he got hired at VMware. He was making the same money, but only working half the hours. He became like a senior engineer. Another one of my success stories would be Hazel. Hazel is a QA engineer now at Samsung. Initially, when I met her, she was unemployed for 6 months after she graduated from University of Texas at Arlington. Hazel was very, very shy, and she didn't come over our show until we like kind of helped her in culture to kind of put herself up more. After about 5 weeks of the program finished, she got a job at Samsung with benefits and everything. So I've been very proud of her. And now she's actually one of my apprentice instructors for the program.
Awesome. Yes, great to be doing something there where you're making an impact. Lives. It's awesome. How did you get started in cybersecurity? Origin story.
It was all kind of by accident. Initially, my dad is a software engineer. He's been for the past like 27, 28 years now. And he kind of wanted to push me and brother to go inside of the IT world when we were like in middle school, but I wasn't mentally ready for it. So he made me do a code academy boot camp during one summer. I'm like, Dad, this is the lamest thing ever. You're telling me someone basically pays you money to type in the keyboard all day? That sounds really stupid. I don't want to do that. So when I graduated from high school, my undergrad was in business management, basically. It wasn't until I got towards USF. I'm from Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
I did HEC community college for 2 years and transferred to bigger school. It was my junior year, and I wanted kind of to niche down to get better job prospect after I graduated. So I asked my pops, I'm like, hey, Dad, what should I do to try to niche down? And he's like, how about IT, Kenneth? I'm like, that's a great idea. And so that's how I kind of got inside of IT, down that path. And then through chance and opportunities, I got inside of cybersecurity. And from there, I worked as like a threat intelligence analyst. I've been a software engineer, and now I do SIEM and SOAR consulting.
Okay. Awesome. So tell us more about SIEM and SOAR technology.
SIEM stands for Security Information Management System. That is basically, think of Splunk, Splunk Enterprise Security, QRadar, Microsoft Sentinel. Basically, how that works is all the data your devices generate. So think of your computers, your laptops, your servers, your firewalls, your routers, your switches, your phones, printers, anything like that. Those all generate data, right? And to log and monitor it separately is very complicated. But our SIEM platform will centralize all of that. So you're able to aggregate all that data and build detection rules on it to detect malicious activity happening on those systems, right? And then a SOAR platform stands for Security, Orchestration, Automation, and Response. So those are like XSOAR, Splunk SOAR, IBM Resilient, Microsoft Sentinel. That's a SIEM and SOAR platform. So those are designed to basically handle incident response processes, right? So once a SIEM flags something as being malicious or being like an incident, it'll get sent to the SOAR platform. And you're able to automate and orchestrate a lot of those processes that would normally be done manually by a user.
Okay. All right. So in the context of, say, Microsoft Sentinel, where does Defender fit into that equation?
Defender would be an XDR platform or extended detection and response. So those are normally the agents inside of your devices that actually physically try to stop malicious activity from happening or block downloads and stuff like that, basically. And so those, well, then you can still ingest those logs out of SIEM platform to get a better sense as to what's going on. You can orchestrate that as well with the SOAR platform too.
Okay. So all in concert, working together.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned like how it is really complicated to kind of, have visibility on all the various logs that your devices create. Elaborate more on that, why that's so difficult. Or let's say a small business where you think, hey, I don't need SOAR or SIEM. I only have 10 devices. Why is it important for them to still leverage that type of technology?
Well, normally SOAR platforms, if you're a small business, I wouldn't suggest having it actually. Those are normally for more mature security postures. If you're a small business, right, even if you have 10 devices, right, a lot of times if you're not like a technical person or you have a technical person on staff, and you know how to manage that, it can get kind of crazy if something happens towards it, right? Like, hey, how to log in? How do I actually fix this, right? But normally you just set up login and monitoring on it, and you just store those logs inside of one centralized location. So instead of you having to log on inside an individual device to try to troubleshoot it, you can just take a look at it from one centralized platform. Now, think of this when you're like a large enterprise environment where you have 100,000 servers or 100,000 devices, right? Not feasible for you to try to log in inside of each one of them to try to manage that. That's why that's where a SIEM platform comes in place.
Okay. Makes sense. With our audience, a lot of them are small businesses providing services to the Department of Defense or research universities who are kind of smaller in nature, segmented, providing services to the DoD, have to comply with CMMC requirements. Auditing and logging is included in those requirements for those small entities. How would you recommend they leverage SIEM technology?
So I would say,
especially from an economical standpoint.
Gotcha. You can always, Splunk might be kind of expensive for them, especially for a small business. So you can get like a cheaper version like LogScale, Microsoft Sentinel, or Elastic, for example. And normally I'd try to call a professional like me, for example, to see if we're able to actually configure that inside of your environment. And then from there, we can help you manage that environment and then give you documentation on how you can maintain it. If anything goes wrong, you can always install us. So let's say you're a small business and you have probably 10 to 15 people on staff, and none of them are really security people. They're be IT people, they're not really cybersecurity people. I would suggest getting a SIEM environment, if you're able to, getting a plan in place to see what devices you have, getting an asset list, right? And then seeing what's the most valuable asset inside of your environment. And then from there, we can start to ingest logs from there and get a better sense as to what's going on for your environment.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And some always start off with our consulting clients is you start off that asset inventory, understanding prioritization, critical assets, as you said. Certainly want to have visibility, see what's going on with those assets. Now, have you seen situations, because I hear a lot where say that Microsoft Sentinel is also too expensive for a small business. Have you seen small businesses leverage Microsoft Sentinel and doesn't break the bank for them?
I would say it still kind of depends. So I guess the good thing about Microsoft is that you can bundle all their products and make it cheaper. If you're not a Microsoft shop, Microsoft Sentinel might not be the best for you, so keep that in mind. Probably the cheapest one they can get, I would say, is Elastic. You need to basically pay for what you use, for like features, capabilities, basically. So if you can like bare bones, you can probably just get that and use that as a solution. I know a lot of Elastic people inside my network as well. So it's a pretty good product. So if you try to scale it up really largely, you'll run into system issues.
Okay, no, good insights. Now, what challenges have you seen small businesses encounter when they're trying to adopt SIEM technology?
They don't have a plan in place. They don't know what their baseline is, right? They don't understand their budget. They don't understand the staffing capabilities for it. Either that, or they'll buy it and they don't know how to use it or have understanding what features it has. So it sits there and collects dust, which is very, very interesting. So people spend $10 million on a platform and not know how to use it. That's the big issue that I see.
Yeah, I don't want to do that, but I see that a lot as well with just technologies, especially security technologies, where they think it's a set it and forget it or just a turnkey solution. Where as long as you get that subscription, you're secured. You're saying the importance of configuring and tuning, everything that goes along. What services do you offer to help companies understand what solutions they may need, do the scoping, budgeting, training, setup, just kind of talk more to their solutions?
So we offer primarily coaching and training services. So if you already have staff in place and they need to learn a specific technology stack or you need training, we offer that as well. So we basically train your staff on it, how to use it, how to do documentation for it, how to configure it, how to maintain it, and how to become an analyst, engineer, and architect, for example. And then we can train your staff on it so they're able to do it themselves. Or we're able to help install, configure, and maintain your environment as need be. So we also are able to do that as well. We do other migrations as well from different platforms. And we also do some SOC management as well, if need be.
Once a small business, they get their SIEM set up, where does that SOC component come in?
Normally, if you're like a small business, right, you probably don't have the budget to hire like 5 different people, right? You're going to need a SOC analyst, an engineer, you might need a manager, you might need a network admin, you might need a system admin, right? If you're paying anywhere between $80,000 to $140,000 per person, most small businesses don't have the budget to do that, right? Normally, what would happen would you would just basically pay me, like I say, $80,000 a flat fee, and then I would have staffing people in the background, and they may, because you may only need a network engineer for like maybe 5 hours a week, right? So instead of paying him $140 for a full time, I just pay him a certain fee for that, right? And we just use him as need be. So we're able to basically help them manage your environment and give you kind of everything that you need for a good price. So if you have to hire 10 to 5 different people, you just hire basically my company and we will take care of it for you.
Right. Yeah. So providing that fractional support and as much as you need. So, popular and economical model, same with like virtual CISO type models or fractional CISO models that we all. Yeah. That's good to know. How do you approach this tuning SIEM technology? So I know it would be a challenge because even one device can produce tons of logs and just a lot of noise. What's your philosophy approach around tuning?
That goes back towards, again, having a baseline. A lot of companies don't understand what normal looks like inside their environment. if you don't understand what normal looks like inside your environment, how can you tell what's abnormal, right? So having that baseline is very important when you're trying to tune to see like, hey, what's sensitive, what's not sensitive. Should we turn this up for severity? Should we turn it down for severity? What's actually important inside your environment? So we can design rules around that, right? So this asset isn't that important, right? I can drop the severity or I can raise it up depending on how sensitive you want it to be, right? If it's super important, I'll raise the severity. So whenever something gets flagged for this, it might fire off more alerts. Compared to if I lower the severity, the opposite effect of it, basically. So those are some things you can do as well, which goes back towards what's specifically valuable inside of your asset list for your inventory. Which a lot of companies again don't have that. They assume everything's valuable, which is technically it is, but you only have a limited amount of resources, right? So everything can't be super important.
Right.
So trying to get them to understand that's another big issue that we run into.
Okay. Absolutely. They have to prioritize. No organization has a blank check. That's certainly not small businesses. Boy, tell us more about some ways to avoid sticker shock or just unexpected costs related to your logging.
Document everything that you do. So understand if you turn something on, know how you turned it on. So for example, no one's a bottleneck, right? Because for example, if I get hired by Google, they'll say, hey, Kenneth will give you $500,000 to leave. And I didn't document anything, right? And then I leave, and then you come behind me there, and you're like, "Hey, how did Kenneth configure this?" And then everyone's like, "Oh, I have no idea. He just did it by himself." You're kind of screwed in that sense, right? And then while you're trying to fix it, that cost is going up and up and up, right? Because you don't know how to turn it off or how to configure it properly. So documenting your processes is really important. Knowing what your license costs are, what your license entails, and understanding how much data you're actually ingesting is another big thing. Having a centralized place where you can monitor your environment from a dashboard perspective. Communication is another big thing. I know in security and IT, a lot of times organizations will get siloed, and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, which can be dangerous. So communication is another big thing overall as well.
Okay. All good best practices for cybersecurity and having documented policies, procedure, SOPs. Let's say if they're training in-house, training their staff on a new SIEM solution, what are some best practices you would recommend?
I'd recommend making sure you have a plan in place. So know what modules, for example, that you want to cover, know what features you're going to use, right? If you're just going to use a normal Elastic Stack, so Elk, Logstash, and Kibana, you're not going to use the same capabilities, and don't go over that. It's just a waste of time and waste of money. Right? Again, know your staffing requirements and capabilities. Right? How many people are you going to bring on? Don't set it up. Don't set your classroom up to train 100 people if you're only going to bring on 5. The vibe will be different for it, and what you can actually get in will be different for it as well. Because if I only 5 students inside my classroom, the way I'm going to teach it is going to be different than if I taught 100 people. I'm just understanding that as well. I would say make sure the training is hands-on. If they're going to be engineers, like architects and analysts, for example, there's going to be managers, and they just want to know the theoretical knowledge of it. Again, know your audience, so you're able to do it that way. Just depends on who you're teaching, for how long, set it up so that it tailors towards their needs.
Got it. Have you seen organizations, especially small businesses, successfully use alternative systems than a centralized SIEM, like maybe using more of a manual strategy for tracking their logs and aggregating them? Some companies may use like a spreadsheet, things like that.
I've seen that as well.
You've seen it?
Okay. Yeah, it's very effective. What happens is someone will lose a spreadsheet, right? And they'll create another one. Then 5 points down the line, like, Irish, I found a spreadsheet. And now we have 2 different spreadsheets, right? Personally, I hate Excel. I'm not going to lie. I don't like it. It's very annoying. It reminds me of accounting, which I hate with a passion. So I try to avoid using Excel as much as possible. Sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't. But yeah, I would say just have a plan in place is the biggest thing. Yeah, that's the biggest aspect, honestly. Know what you're doing and know why you're doing it.
Kickboxing, what are some parallels or some metaphors that you learned in martial arts that I think applies to this conversation's scope around cybersecurity and audit logging?
I was actually thinking about this like 5 minutes before a call.
It just came off the top of my head. Like,
yeah.
I could see it be some parallels.
Well, I think we talked about during the beginning start of the call. Just like in cybersecurity, I realized like how much power I had in my hands, like, and how much damage we can do if we really wanted to, right? we had ill intentions. The same with martial arts, right? Like martial arts were designed to like kill people, right? Basically, if you had to. And so you understand that, right? And so just keeping that in mind, understanding, hey, I've been like blessed with like a special ability, right? So I need to take it as such and take it seriously and use it for good. So same thing with cybersecurity. When I got my first threat intelligence job, I had access towards everyone's systems because I was like the login monitoring person. So I saw their emails, what they sent, who they sent it to, the attachments, all of that, right? Which is it's kind of creepy because I was like 20 years old. I'm like, are they giving me this much power? And then that was like when I realized, I'm like, oh, like this isn't the game. All right, I had to take this seriously.
Right.
Same thing with like martial arts. Because we're learning like how to knee people in the head and side of the face, right? How to like sweep people, how to do head kicks, right? Which can be really dangerous if you're not careful. You don't know how to control your body. I was sparring with my trainer's boyfriend. He's like an ex-Muay Thai fighter. And we were sparring and he had a head kick, but he kicked me like right in between my neck. And I thought for a second, I'm like, oh, it didn't hurt though. I felt it, but it wasn't. He's like perfect body control, right? We were just doing light sparring.
Okay.
But I was thinking, I'm like, if you want to kill me, you could just like snap my neck in half.
Yeah.
And so for that, I'm like, this is actually kind of cool, right? He has like that much self-control and that much body control to control himself like that. Which sounds like really cool, by the way. He's an awesome guy.
That's cool. Yeah, I was just curious about your insights on those parallels, and I totally agree. Your point, cybersecurity is not a game, depending on regardless whether role of responsible for the incident response and the monitoring, or if you're just responsible for protecting the organization. Stakes are very high. Typically, I've seen several studies where organizations that experience a cyber breach, a lot of them that puts them out of business, don't recover from it.
Especially for small businesses, when they get a breach or attack, it's a really big deal. Because if you're Microsoft and you get attacked, right, you're Microsoft, right? Your market cap's like $2 trillion. So if the breach costs you $40 billion, it's still a big deal, but
Dropping the bucket.
Of the world, right? Yeah. Same thing with like MGM and Graham. I think they lost like, was it $80 million? And people are like, oh, that's so much money. And I think I read a number, so I'm like, that's what they make in one day.
Yeah, a weekend or one day.
So to them, it's just like, it's okay.
Right. Typical business, small, medium size, it can be the end of their existence. It's important. Do you have experience, I guess, involved in any like investigations or forensic investigations, cybersecurity?
Just from like the phishing aspect of it. I didn't get to do too much digital forensics. I did some threat hunting and some threat intelligence work. So we basically emulate attacks that we know were happening in our environment, and then we would basically reverse the techniques of it to build detection rules for it.
Okay. So for those organizations that's listening to this podcast or watching, and they are just trying to recruit talent, someone that's going to pretty much be internal for their organization to set up, manage their SIEM or SOAR solution, what are some traits or characteristics they should look for in those potential candidates?
First thing I tell them is to use us so we can staff for you. But if you don't want to use us, I would say certain traits would be honesty and integrity, two big things, right? You want someone that's going to constantly lie in front of you or your clients. So if you feel like they're not telling the truth and you catch them lying, then I'd throw out their resume. But especially for me, I don't tolerate that. Being respectful is another thing, right? No one wants to work with like an a-hole, but disrespectful to you and your clients, even if they're good at their job. To me, it doesn't matter. I don't want them on my staff.
Right.
Another thing would be like a technical perspective. Make sure they're technically competent. That's fine for a lot of the stuff. They can learn a lot of it. Only one put in the work, they should be fine. But just having like a baseline understanding is another big thing I would say is really important as well.
Yeah, I agree. But to your point, I think the most important characteristic for anyone working in cybersecurity is that integrity. So you have access to so much sensitive information, you do a lot of damage. So just like in martial arts, you need to have that self-control, body control. You also need high integrity cybersecurity roles. Yeah, totally agree.
Especially for government stuff as well.
Yeah, especially. The stakes are even higher. Emerging technology excites you?
I would say from like a technical perspective, probably like using AI for cybersecurity, threat detection rules, and helping to speed up the automation process for that as well. is super cool. A lot of it can be kind of manual. So using
Okay.
AI to help try to automate like the phishing process to find malicious phishing techniques and malware is super cool in my opinion.
I've seen some marketing around Microsoft Copilot and integrating AI. You had a chance to play around with any of those solutions yet?
I've used Apply a little bit. Honestly, a lot of the AI stuff kind of sucks right now. It's kind of annoying.
Okay.
We keep trying to push it on us.
Very
Oh,
immature at this
yeah,
stage.
my mic isn't good at all. I don't want
It's
this.
not ready. So there's no just easy button yet. Just autopilot.
No, that doesn't exist yet.
All right, got it. So, Kenneth, as we ready to kind of wrap up this interview, question I always like to ask is, what is a book, movie, or podcast that has had a significant impact on your life, personally and or professionally, or even a mentor?
What was the name of it? I think it's called The Millionaire Next Door. That for
Classic.
me, yeah, that was probably one of the biggest books that impacted me financially. And just like the mental like psychology of how people view money. Like
Okay.
Ramit Sethi talks about it a lot. Right, like money is very emotional, which is fine
Right.
because it always like interests me. Because most people that I see drive luxury cars don't actually have that much money, right? They whatever they make, they spend, right? So if you're making, let's say, $250,000, that's a lot. Let's say you live in Dallas like we do, right? But if your house is like $800K, you're spending another
Yeah.
probably $1,000 a month on a car. Plus, you got to think of all the other external factors of the car, right? Insurance,
Right.
gas, maintenance, you have parking stuff. If you take the toll roads, right? All that adds
Yeah.
up, right? So I might
Adds
be
up.
that car might be actually $1,700 a month to actually own it, right? And run and maintain it, which is a lot of
Right.
money. People don't always see that. Same thing with like buying a house. Right? People are like, oh, if you buy a house, the price will go up, and you should make money. I'm like, that's not how it works. Because with
Yeah.
a house versus renting is the maximum I'll pay, right? So I won't pay any more than that set price to set it out. For a house, your mortgage is the minimum you pay, right? You have insurance, HO fees, maintenance. If you live in a nice neighborhood,
Maintenance.
you have to pay it. You have to keep your house maintained, right? We get fined. Insurance, flood
Yeah.
insurance, other insurance, right? So yeah, have that mortgage may be $4,000 instead of like $2,500, and then you have to pay that mortgage, and you can't
Right.
leave. If you leave, you'll lose money.
Right.
So I tell people, for whatever you do, just run your numbers. Understand like what is actually valuable towards you personally in your actual journey. Some people really like fancy cars. That's perfectly fine. Just understand you have the budget around that.
Mhm.
Some people like going on vacation a lot and going to fancy islands. That's perfectly fine. Just budget and understand what the costs are for that, right? It's the biggest
Yeah.
thing that I took away from that book.
Yeah, certainly a classic book. So certain books I listen to, like audiobooks, I listen to at least once a year, and that's on the list. I probably listen to at least 3 or 4 times. I always get another nugget from it every time I listen to it again. But absolutely. I'm gonna throw in one more bonus question for you, since you are involved in coaching and training. What are some tips you would give people who are interested in getting into cybersecurity, where they don't have that prior experience, but they're interested in cybersecurity and they want to essentially get into the career field?
I tell everyone it is hard to get inside this field because it does pay well if you get good enough skills. But the other counterpoint about it, people say, man, cybersecurity is a scam, right? This scam is rigged. Man, I don't want to do this no more. I tell people, like, everything in life that's worth any weight in salt is hard, right? You want to be a doctor, that is hard, right? You want to be a lawyer, that is hard. You want to be an engineer, that is hard, right? The thing you have to do is pick your heart and choose your heart. If you love cybersecurity or you like it a lot and the amount of money you can make and the lifestyle you can have is worth it for you, yeah, it's going to be hard, but it'll be worth it, right? You just have to have that mental understanding of that, right? Because I could have been a neurosurgeon if I really wanted to, right? But I don't want to spend 8 years in college, right? And I don't like cutting people open, pulling their brain, right? It's not my thing, right?
Mhm.
But if that's your thing, then the cost associated with it and the amount of work is worth it, right? Because
Right.
if you enjoy doing it. So then pick and choose your heart. I see so many people that just want to do cybersecurity, get six figures in like in 4 weeks. I'm like, that's not how it works. You can't make 6 figures in this field a lot quicker than you
Right.
could in other fields. It'll still
Right.
take time, but it's worth it. Right? If you actually enjoy the process of getting better at cybersecurity, then it becomes worth it. If you don't, you're not going to last in this field. So I tell people to choose your heart and know what you really want to do.
Good advice. Absolutely. Cybersecurity is not a get rich quick scheme. That's for sure. And even if you do figure out some shortcuts or hacks to stay in the field, you're going to have to continually be
Yeah.
learning and stay on top of your your expertise in developing. Tell people cybersecurity, you're going to be a bookworm. Always have to be researching. Things are always changing. It's easy, but knowing cybersecurity, really good insights. Kenneth, I pretty appreciate your time today. A lot of good insights and tips, and certainly encourage the viewers to reach out to you. What's the best way to contact you?
Either directly through LinkedIn, because I'm always on LinkedIn, through our site, or YouTube, or just email us directly from our site, and we'll respond back towards you.
Awesome. Much appreciation. If you receive value from this episode, I invite you to subscribe and like so that you're the first to know when we release new episodes. Also check out CMMCproof.com to learn more about the arsenal of resources that we provide to equip you to conquer CMMC. We'll see you next time.